Evening, folks. How are we? Good. Excellent. Glad to hear it. Hang on. Who's that knocking at the door? Blimey, it's me old Muckerdell boy.
Hello.
How you doing? How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad. Well, actually, I've not been well this week, but I'm feeling well in myself, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. No, good. What's tonight's entertainment? Is that Millwall by any chance? Is it?
Yeah, it is.
What
It's
do
the
I know?
footy. Don't want copyright this, copyright that, blah 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 blah. Put the head or whatever it is around and try and stop it.
Yeah, it's my favourite night of the week. Who doesn't love a Friday night?
Oh, yeah,
How do you find? I mean, I know you've obviously been off work for a wee while. Do you find? I mean, I've never actually been off. The longest I've been off, kind of apart from when I was still at school, was like 2 weeks in the summer, whatever. How do you find it? The fact that you've been off for quite a while. Does every day just, as Morrissey once said, every day is like Sunday, or
Yeah.
does it just mean nothing really?
No. I mean, the difficulty with being off sick is it does interrupt a routine, and I love a routine, and I didn't have a day off sick in 9-10 years. This is a sickness brought on by how a company has treated you, rather than than having some sort of like illness, like a cold or a bug or something. And what you tend to find, even if you're off, say, on for a month backpacking or something like that, is that most people that you want to speak to are at work. So if
Mm.
that's true, then Friday still becomes a Friday because you can't speak to anybody or do anything until people come home from their own work in the evening or have also got a day off. So Friday ends up being just like any other Friday because I look forward to the evening when I might be watching this Waffle or I might be speaking to somebody that gives me a phone call. It's like that. So much of the stuff that I want to do is only happens because I'm off at the same time as somebody else.
Mm.
So you know,
I suppose if you're off and most of your kind of pals, etc., they're working, then you're just going to be you know you're not going to have any real interaction during the week, eh? But yeah.
no. And what tends to happen is that, and this is why people like yourself that take the time to give me a call or people on Discord are around for me to have a chat. It gives me a different type of routine, if you see what I mean. I didn't want to ever get into the routine where I woke up and I started watching Frasier and Cheer reruns on E4 and then go for a walk and then suddenly it's lunchtime and then you'll do something for your mother and then um, what do you do? Watch more TV or whatever it is. I've tried to mix things up. Like, okay, let's do some of the things that I should have done a long time ago. Like, let's pick up my camera and look at the outside world again, or do something productive. Get some of this
Aye,
stuff that's
aye.
in my room up into the attic and give myself some space and
No,
that
you're
sort
talking
of
about
thing.
you're talking about photography. I was up at my sister's house a couple of weeks ago, last weekend actually, and she had photographs. Now, if you're below a certain age, you probably don't know what these are. Photographs are a thing where you pointed this thing and then you pressed the button and then you took it to Boots the chemist and you waited for 3 weeks and you paid £6 and you found out that six of the 12 photos didn't work. She had photos. I'm like, what? Oh, did you get yourself a like an old fashioned camera? She went, no, 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 no. She says there's a thing called. Where is it? I've got it right here. I've not even looked at it yet. Free print. And what you actually do is now I told Lee, my girlfriend, and she went, I've been using that for years. I'm like, well, why didn't you bloody tell me? What happens is you get your phone, download the app completely free, and then you just pick 45 photographs every month. You can go through your WhatsApp, your gallery, your Facebook. You pick 45 photographs and then you send them, is it £3.99 postage? And they send you the 45 photographs. And you do that every month. So my sister's actually, you can't tell she's Scottish. My sister created 3 bogus email addresses. So she gets, was it 45 times 3? Was that 135 photos? So she's virtually got every single photo she's ever taken on her phone. I think that's brilliant because there's something nice about looking at photographs. You never ever look at photographs on your phone now, so that's I didn't know about it. Maybe I'm late to the party like I usually am with everything. But I think that's a bloody brilliant thing.
Yeah.
£3.99. I don't know how much it is to take an SD card to like Asda. I don't know if maybe that's the same price. I don't know. I don't know. But top tip: if you want some photographs printed for £3, £3.99. What did I say it was called? Free print. Yeah, it's available on Android. This video is not sponsored by this, by the way. I was not paid to promote this. Completely free, bar the postage and packaging. So
Very
aye,
good.
there you have it. There you have it. Who's in tonight? Let's have a quick roll call. I shout your name. You just raise your hand. We've got the Oxmeister. We've got Ian Batchelor. We've got Jamie Maxwell. We've got Steve 8-Bit Gaming. Bloody Del Boy, what are you commenting in the video for? You can't do that when you're in the video. Jesus Christ, man. Talk about taking bloody liberties. You're in the video and you're commenting. Jesus wept. Mark whatever, LFC Gamer, Mr. Colin Gregory, and I was going to say, and finally, there's still a list here. Craig Flanagan. Christ, you're bloody commenting again. Jambon, Mr. Colin Jones, and Ian Batchelor. Have I said you, Ian? I don't know. And Scott as well. Excellent. Anyway, yeah, I do apologise about Dale's behaviour. I don't know. You give him a wrench and he takes a mile, mate. What am I going to do with you?
I wanted to extend the suspense by look, he's talking here, so it must be just a
Ah, yeah.
standard waffle.
Sorry, yeah, you were trying to pretend you weren't actually going to get invited in.
Yeah.
I mean to say, I've got a bloody bone to pick with you. Making me look bad because I asked you a question about who's your top 5 favourite channels. I told you that was a joke, and you bloody posted it. And Jesus, what will people think of me?
Yeah, well, I thought, right, this little bastard's going to get his own little section in my blog, so I'm going to make him look bad.
Right, we're going to come clean here, folks. I said that to Dale last week when I was on the phone to you, and I said, right, for a cheeky wee question, I want you to name your top 5 favourite channels of Friends. I said, I don't expect you to answer it. I says, but I do expect you to say, obviously, I'm not even going to be in the fucking list for being a cheeky bastard.
Yeah. And I have to put my hands up because I missed a section in what I was going to say because things were a little bit awry last week because I thought it was the Sid show, and because
that's coming out on Sunday, I think.
That's right, yeah. So I changed my Sunday to try and do something with photography, so that I could do my blog early morning and get it out so that everybody could have the whole afternoon spending looking at this new 4-hour stream, this new 4-hour video. So I did my blog, and then I realized that I'd forgot to do your question, and I thought that's wrong. I can't have the person that sort of like I watch every week not have his question asked. So I did a special 10-minute 0.1 extra type thing, which I call it a 0.1 extra. And I'd been up by then for about 19, 20 hours, and I forgot a line that says, by the way, this was a joke. So I just said, so I just read the first question is this, and the second question is this. And then you sort of can't really correct it. And I just thought, oh, sod it. When you put your comment in, I'll straighten that out.
But I just thought that's putting me in a bad light. I know I'm a bit of a cunt, but that really makes me look like a cunt. You know what I mean? Come on.
It was funny because it was like I could see the panic in you. I thought I told you that this.
It was the way you read out the question. You goes, well, I'm obviously not going to answer that. Anyway, part 2.
You could tell my brain was haggard because if I'd have thought about it a little bit more, I'd have probably put 5 different software companies anyway. Because the nice thing about comments is that people get time to watch, what you've said, and then when they think of it themselves, they're going, "Oh yeah, what about Llamasoft? What about GraphGoal? What about Synapse? What about?" And I'm going, "Do you know what? I thought I gave a good result because without people like Mastertronic and Codemasters, which gave out 199 type games." They're looking at it from a point of view, but look at the quality that Llamasoft came out, even if they only brought out like 20 titles. Then you're going, yeah, do you know what? You're quite right. I did say my number 1 was Firebird, and the reason I gave for Firebird was they did do a budget range as well, and they did bring out quite some quality software.
That's the Silver Range or something.
Yeah, Silverbird or something like that.
Silver, I think it was Silver Range. I can't remember.
Yeah. So I just went, well, with Elite and a number of other things, I've got to put them as number 1 because not only did they bring out their own budget stuff, they also brought out some real good top titles. But if you think about it, really, Houston and GraphGold probably pissed all over them. Really, if I'd have thought about it. So yeah, it just shows that I just wasn't thinking correct. And this week I've got to be on the ball. I really have got to be on the ball. So I'll be looking at the questions and the news and everything all.
Quick question there from Scott. How many games do you have for your Virtual Boy, Al?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I'm not going to. Will I go and get them? Well, I'll go and get them. Yeah, they're only just over here. Hang on 2 ticks.
Look at that, see? Leaves me by myself again. What a host. Somebody ought to comment on the back of his headrest as well, that all the foam is starting to show.
Scratch that. I can't be arsed. I don't know what they're in one of these things, but because they're wee skinny things, I can't find them. How many games have I got? I've probably got about, I don't know, maybe 10. Maybe 10 games.
That's not bad. I don't know
Yeah.
quite what the exact number was, but I don't think it was more than about 30 or 40. It was only an 18-month in production thing, so
Yeah. What's my favourite? I'll be brutally honest, and I think I did I don't know if I mentioned it when I was doing my live stream this week. I've not used it for quite a number of years. If I'm being, I keep saying if I'm being honest, I'm never going to be. You know me by now. I'm never I'm never anything other than honest. Um, it's a mechanical thing, and I'm terrified I'm going to break it. It's not the
yeah.
most user friendly thing. You've got to. In fact, I was Richard Leinfeldner did spot it, and he was asking about it, and I think he actually told me that, and I'm sure it's a true story. He said that the reason they got rid of it is because they, they were terrified that somebody would try and put an elastic band around their head with it on, and
Yeah.
trip up, and then somebody would sue Nintendo. Probably that would probably be the truth. But it's a mechanical thing. There, I've never looked. I mean, there can't be that many. I'd be interested to know how many of these are actually still in circulation. Probably not that many because I think they're probably pretty fragile.
Yeah. I mean, well, we had a little story, didn't I? I told you that I first saw the Virtual Boy was in a store when I was on holiday in America. And I was tempted to buy one and bring one back, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And they had them in the stores, and just like what was happening over here, like in Hamleys and places like that, they'd have a section that says Nintendo Boy, and they'd have one behind a plate, sort of like Perspex glass or something. It had the stand, you could put your face sort of like in so that you could play the game, like this. And you could see the legs, the legs were very like that thin plastic. It sort of came down, didn't it, from the bottom of the device, or clipped on, I suppose
Oh,
that's how it
they're
worked.
made of metal. I mean, I've got
Oh, they
mine
made them
here.
out. See, that's what you
Yeah,
can't tell because it's behind Perspex. And I think the game that I played was Mario Tennis. So it was a tennis game anyway. I
that's
remember
that
that.
is actually that is actually really good. I mean, the 3D, it's never going to be sort of like virtual reality 3D. It's like it's kind of similar to your 3DS. It's like looking in. It doesn't
Yeah.
surround you, obviously. Um, but yeah, it's surprisingly effective. When I first the very first time I saw that would be in 2005, and it belonged to a mate called Chris, and he he ended up selling it a couple of years later, and I bought it off him. And yeah, it's considering when did it come out? When
Now
was
that's
it?
what I mean. It was
'95 or
the
something?
last time I went over to the States was 98. The first time I went over was 89, and I went sort of like every 2 years. So it would have been one of those
Yeah, one
visits,
of these
you
sections.
know.
Right, Jambon, you bloody behave yourself. We should bring out Nintendo should bring out a virtual Del Boy. Jesus Christ.
Virtua Del Boy. Jesus. What would I be doing? don't answer that. I don't know if people
Obviously,
want to know.
if you do get a 14-inch Del Boy, it comes with its own little TV, and you can change the channels and that kind of shit.
Oh, good God.
Here's one. If it was a Panther UK doll, what would the prop what would the
Well, he's the
prop
Pink Panther, isn't he? So,
Rinky Dink Panther?
Rinky
Mi-
Dink Panther is what I call him now. That's it.
Mine would obviously have different baseball caps that you can put on back to front,
Oh, I'd
and it
dress. You see, that's the thing. I'd dress him up in salmon, everything. He'd be in pink. He'd have a pink car. He'd have a pink shirt. Just to dress him up like some girl.
and then mine would obviously come with a Sharpie, so you can actually draw my beard in as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's have a quick look. Jamie's asking, did I ever get any headaches from using the 3D? That was the reason. That was the reason I heard that Nintendo stopped making it, because people were complaining about headaches. I've not. Honest answer, Jamie. I've never used it long enough to actually get a headache. It's not the kind of thing you would want to use for half an hour because you would get a crick in your neck for starters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've maybe played it for like 10, 15 minutes at a time, and I've been absolutely fine. But like I said, it's one of these kind of curios. It's something I've thought about selling, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know. But anyway, we're kind of touching on a topic which we're going to talk about in
Yeah.
a wee while. So yeah, what have I been up to? I did a live stream with Richard Leinfeld. And I've got to say, and I'm going to piss a lot of people off that I have spoken to, but out of all the guys that I've spoken to over the last sort of 5 years, he's one of my favourites. He's a he's got a brilliant sense of humour. He's a really funny, clever guy. He's really up just for a bit of laugh, a nice guy.
Quirky, isn't
He
he?
is. He is very, very quirky. Um, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of been up my cook stool twice a week. I've actually upped that to 3 times a week. So I go on Monday, I go on Wednesday. Hence the reason I've not been putting out a lot of content on YouTube. I will try and fix that. I've got a couple of videos that I kind of started and then I got waylaid, whatever. Or usually somebody through the walls making far too much noise. I'm like shit. Uh,
We're not naming any names.
no, Eva. Yeah, that's been it. That's been that. I'm glad it's Friday. What about yourself, mate? What have
Oh, hang on.
you been up
Before we get
to?
to myself, have I got to mention the buzzword Archie to you?
No, he's in his bed now. He's all right.
Oh, okay.
He's in.
I had to bring that word in, you see, because you
Well,
told me to.
you can. There he is.
There he is.
There
That's
he
it.
is. And there's Jax. Yeah.
It's all mod cons in there, isn't it? Look at that. You could
Oh,
live
yeah.
in
Look.
there. Look at that.
Eh?
You could live in there. Look
See,
at that.
there's all my. Oh, you can't see the other one. I've got another. I've got a cabinet. There's one. You can obviously see one of my cases, and I've got the other case.
Yeah.
I need a wee games room tour thing again. There's my C64, my SNES, and there's Archie, and there's my Amiga, and all that bollocks.
That's just, it's very neat. I've got to do something about neatness, bloody hell. But one of my problems was I had to move a 3-bedroomed house into a 1-bedroom room.
What was that? Sorry, say that again, Del. Sorry.
I had to, back in 2005, I had to move a 3-bedroomed house into a 1-bedroom room, which is why, and then of course your life doesn't stop. You still buy things. So it just turns into a big mess all of a sudden. But it's getting better. You can't see it at the moment, but the back end of the room, the stuff in front of my keyboard has now sort of like diminished down to where I can sit in front of my synthesizer all of a sudden. So,
See, and don't take this. Don't be offended, and you probably will be offended what I'm going to say
no,
here.
I won't go on.
But see, any time I've been down south, I better watch. I'm going to offend Panther here. But anytime I've been down south, my English friends, they the houses down south, they seem to kind of enjoy clutter. Clutter seems to be a more
Right.
prevalent thing down there. I don't know. I'm not saying dirty. I'm just saying clutter. Like you've got quite. I can see you've got quite a lot of clutter. If you came into my house, you'd be like, bloody hell! It's like really. It's not the cleanest. I mean, I do wash my floors once a week. I hoover
Well,
twice a week.
I've got pictures of my old house, right, before
Yeah,
I sold it, right, and that was in Manchester. But if you look at the rest of this house, the mother's part of it, it's totally clutter free. There is just a settee and a plant
right.
and a telly and all of the rest of the stuff. What I was trying to say is, I used to have a telly in the living room and I used to have a telly in the bedroom, right? I used to have a computer room, which used to have all my computers in, and there was a room for that, etc., etc. Now, when you bring everything back, the first thing that happens is 3 computers that used to be in its own room are on this desk. The home entertainment system is sitting right in front of you, so there's another telly, and then the one that you sat in your bed is still required, because you're not going to crick your neck looking to the left, so it's at the foot of your bed, and the bed is in the same room as well. So all of a sudden you've got 4 major rooms that used to be solely for one thing moved into one
Yeah.
room, and then because of that, and because I've got no hallway, all my bills and everything that come through. I've got to, you've got to, all of a sudden you've got to start putting things in folders to make sure that nothing gets lost or awry. And this is why a friend of mine that I did see as soon as I came back, who became a good mate again, but I haven't seen him for years now. He turned around and said, Doesn't your street get worried when you move back? Because when you turn all your equipment on in your room, all the lights outside must dim because you've got 4 tellies on and 3 computers on and a surround sound system and everything else. And I said, yeah, the lights probably do dim outside. When I turn everything on, it's like the Starship Enterprise. So, yeah.
Scott's saying there, are you concerned over monkeypox? Honest answer,
Oh,
nah. I'm not even. Nah, I'm no more concerned about monkeypox as I am getting hit with a car or getting cancer. It's just, whatever.
I think I've probably been a bit more desensitized since the pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic, and when my manager came up to me and said, "You're going to need to go into work, but you do have the option to opt out, and we'll have to come up with something else. Are you happy to go into work?" I said I wasn't happy because I've got an oldish mother, and I could be bringing the pandemic to her. But I do know that the job requires me to be able to supply hardware to all the people that are having to work at home. So yes, I'll become the hero then, shall I? And I'll go into work every day. And every day I was scrubbing my hands, doing the happy birthday to you, while you're washing your hands and wearing the mask and all of that sort of stuff. And I think I wore the mask probably for the longest time where you didn't need to wear it. I was still wearing it. It was one of those things where I'm not worried about it anymore, but I also don't want to still bring it into my mum. So you just use the precautions. Now I'm sort of desensitized. It's like, well, I've got 3 booster shots. I've got a mask if I want one. I know how to wash my hands. I'm not. So when somebody says, "Oh, there's a monkeypox," I'm going, right. What's the likelihood that I'm going to shake somebody's hand or breathe in that's been around it? I'll just take the precautions as I did with anything else, and I don't even think about it. It's almost like instantaneous. I know where there's a mask. You know what I mean? If I want one,
Yeah, I
it's
know.
like,
But yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of trying to get on my life again, mate. We've all lost about 2.5 years, so I'm just yeah,
yeah,
something else will come along. Hang on, a wee question just disappeared off the top. Jamie's saying enjoyed the interview. Blah blah blah. Blah. Yeah, Richard was a cracking bloke. Really, really enjoyed that. We're still trying to pull together people for Play Blackpool. Um, a couple that we had, well, sorry, I'm using I had lined up, can't make it, but we're still working hard to get some decent people. So I'm sure that would be good. Jamie's saying there he's currently getting rid of his gaming clutter, partly because I have to pay the bills. Looking at the positives, I live in a small flat. So excuse me, extra space feels great. Yeah, there's something nice about throwing things out and seeing the space.
yeah. I mean, I remember seeing. I mean, you were talking last week about sitcoms, and I filled in the blanks in my own blog. I remember watching a Big Bang Theory episode where Sheldon, I think, had kept everything, even if it was broken, in a storage unit. Right? He was one of those people where hoarding has become. It's almost like an illness to him. So he's got broken ping pong balls and all sorts of stuff. Every single one that he's broke, he's kept. And although I moved most of my life into the house, I still had to buy a storage unit, and it's still going now. And at some point, really, I need to sort it all out and sell what I don't want anymore, and go. There's no monetary value, and there's no nostalgic value to this. And it's that what is nostalgic to me that that causes me not to sell things, because a lot of things have nostalgia to it.
Mm.
And as soon as I figure out this is not nostalgic to me anymore, that's when it'll go. And I won't see, and I'm pretty sure I won't figure too much about the background of it anymore. It'll be it was I had fun with it, and it's now past its sell by date, you know.
Well, that's you've just kind of touched on a question I'm going to answer, but just very, very quickly, I'm just laughing there. Are you aware of the? Will you be interviewing Lady Decade at Play Blackpool? That would be a
Oh
session to
God,
sell out. Yeah. So anyway, Lady Decade, you and Top Hat Gamer, what's it like to be a pair of cunts?
yeah.
Have
I,
you kind of been keeping up? There's a guy called Funky Spectrum, George. I don't know what his second name is. George does tune into my channel now and again. George is. I would not be surprised if somebody told me he's actually appearing at the Edinburgh Festival, because the guy's an out and out comedian. Now, I do apologise, George, if this is true, but he puts a stutter on, which I think's put on for the purpose of his videos. But he's he basically says exactly what we're all thinking, and he's not afraid to put videos out there. He's basically calling these people out for what they are. I didn't. I started watching a bit of the Lady Decade video, and I've actually met the pair of them. I met them at the last Play Blackpool. There's a kind of green room thing you can go in. So I was there, and they were, and I was talking away to them, and you know what, they're nice people, absolutely nice people. But I'm not a fan of their YouTube channels. Top Pack Gamer, I've never been a big fan of big retro gaming channels, because I always feel that it's very stilted and it's put on, and I sometimes think these guys are not really in this for the love of the hobby like we are. We do this for the love of the hobby. I think that comes across in videos, whereas in, like, you know, Top Hat Gamers, obviously, apparently on not on Facebook, on Twitter, he's kind of boasted quite a few times how he makes so much money. He makes more money in a month than he made as a teacher, and all this kind of shit. And I don't really think that's the right thing to say. You know, there's, especially right now when there's people struggling to pay bills and that. You don't come across as a cock and boast about how much you're making and all that. That's just an arrogant twat, if you ask me. And then his missus, she's jumped on the bandwagon, and I've watched a couple of her videos, and I'm like, and again, I can't talk from personal experience, but according to George, the pair of them do regularly steal content from other YouTube channels. I, on a very, 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 very odd occasion, if I'm doing an anarchy perf with my arse, and there's maybe like the MSX one, and I can't get it working, I'll just pinch a wee couple of seconds. Don't get me wrong, I don't always say thanks for that, but you know, that's just a game getting played, whatever. But yeah, but from what I gather, the pair of them, she came on her channel and she kind of broke down, crocodile tears, broke down, and said how they've apparently they used a photograph that somebody had taken, and he saw the photograph, and I think it ended up saying, you're going to have to pay me £500. And she broke down crying, saying, how come we can't afford £500, sitting behind two cabinets with all these ultra rare games and what have you. And then later on in Twitter, she says, yeah, oh, it's been a hectic week. We're just moving into a bigger house and blah 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 blah. You're like, come on. You know my feelings on not so much monetizing. My channel's monetized. I make probably £10 a month just through people clicking on it, because I don't really get any donations, which is absolutely fine. That's that. But I never ever say to people, "Oh, please smash that subscribe button, hit the bell if you want to see." Bollocks to that. People if they want to watch my channel, they know where to find me. I will never ever ever ask. And I think people just go out and out to ask and plead poverty and all that. There's a particular person, and I'm not. They're probably going to know who it is, and well, I know this person in real life, and I don't really care if they see this and get upset about it. But this particular person he was on Twitch, and he put a GoFundMe to raise money for a new graphics card so that he can continue the high quality Twitch streams that he put out. And he was wanting like 250 quid or something, and people gave him the 250 quid so he could go and buy himself a graphics card. And I'm like, fuck off, seriously. Go and get a fucking job like the rest of us and pay for stuff yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been very, very kind there. You've fucking, what the fuck? I didn't buy anything off Amazon. Is this Ava? And it'll be something for you. You'll send me all these bits of shite, and it's great, and I appreciate that. But I would never ever ask for anything. And I think
No.
people like go out their way to ask for money for that. Don't get me wrong. If I was absolutely destitute and I had no money and I had nothing to sell and I was going to lose the house, I'm one of these people. I will be the first person to say, listen, Dale, I'm really, really struggling, mate. Could you anything, give me some money? But then conversely, I did a video with somebody fairly recently, and I don't really know the person, and he was kind of down in his luck with a lot of things, and I said to him, listen, mate, you want a fucking couple hundred quid? Fucking you can have it, because I don't give a shit
Yeah.
about money. I really don't give a shit about money. As long as I can pay the bills, as long as I can put food on the table for me and Ava, uh, I don't want begging letters coming in, and I'm not loaded at all. But money is it's a vehicle for giving happiness, and sometimes, and you've touched on that before, some people like said, Mr. Graphics scrounging bastard. People like that don't seem to understand that you get far, far more from giving to somebody than you do from getting.
Yeah.
You
But I
know.
mean, just to go back to the beginning of that was it Lady Decade and that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I
Evening,
didn't know
Tony.
about
How are you, mate?
I didn't really know much about it until sort of like Panther brought it up, really.
Mm,
Um, and this is where Discord is quite good because you get to know about stuff that you probably wouldn't have normally come up in your news stream, to click on. And you could see it was a scam from my point of view, it was a scam from the very beginning, because it was like no letter-headed paper. If you put it all together, it was like, this is really weird, that you've got to cease and desist, and you've got to pay me £500, and it's from somebody that's threatening you with court action, and it's not even from on letter-headed paper. I mean, what's that all about? But and then of course it goes on and on and on into a Kickstarter stream, and then you've got people that are sounding this out, aren't they? And they're saying, look, she started off with these many people all donating £1 or something. It was at like 177, and now it's down to 127 because people are realizing what a piece of crap shit this really is.
mm,
And I must admit, I mean, just like you say, who in their right mind asks for £500 and you've got something like £10,000 worth of software behind you? And they even start off the conversation by saying, this letter went to my manager. And you're going, well, bloody
I'm a
hell.
publicist or something. You're
Didn't
like,
even come
fucking hell.
to your house. And I'm going, so you've got a production company and you've got a manager, and at the end of the day, I'd be having a word with your production company because they're the ones that chose all the clips. Why
Mm,
is it you then that's just in front of the camera that's suddenly getting do you see what I mean? All these questions come into your head, and you're going,
yeah.
how these people are foolish enough to think that.
There's Steve saying there, some moron paid the £500 for her, but they were still taking money for days after that.
Yeah,
That's just that
that's
is
money
just
grabbing,
people.
isn't it?
Yeah, that is disgusting. Absolutely,
So
I just absolutely detest that. I think it's these people should take a bloody good look at themselves. You know what I mean?
but it was interesting in regards to what else you said, because thinking back to those early days of knowing you, Alan, I was coming to the end of me being an asset manager for the company, and my manager basically turned around and said, "This stuff's being chucked. Do what you
Mm,
want with it. As long as you write down on an A4 sheet of paper at the end of the week what you've decided you wanted to take home. I've got no problem with it, as long as it isn't." Got hard, like a hard drive or something in it that's got probation data, because that's got to be destroyed. And so when little things came up like um, I think I remember I sent you a mouse where the ball is on top of the
yep,
device,
yep.
right? I just thought to myself, hey, Maymeister likes Missile Command. He's always looking for something that he wants to do as an next video. How about doing a retrospective on a device that most people would think, I haven't got an Atari trackball anymore, because that came out in 1978, and they're like gold dust on eBay. But you can buy an £18 Logitech mouse with a trackball on top. I wonder how that plays in the MAME. So I sent it to you thinking, hey, look, use this if you want. If you don't use it, chuck it in the bin, because that's pretty much what I was going to do with it. And it started coming into every couple of weeks sending you a cable like a KVM switch, or which anybody knows means that you can connect multiple keyboards and mice to one. And I just thought, hey, if you can get some benefit of it, great. If it's no benefit to you, chuck it in the bin. That's all I was going to do with it. And the postage, it was actually paid mostly by the company as well, because I was sending stuff out to people in the probation service. So
it's not the point of the fact that you did that, mate, is nice, and that's the mark of the man. You
if
know what I mean?
if it cost me money, then anything. If it weren't for the fact that my manager was the one that said, "I'm totally happy for you to take it away," you'd be getting nothing, and you still would think of me as a bastard. I mean, as a nice bloke.
Well, you're a
So
cracking bloke. You're still a cunt, but that'll never change. Okay, no. Evening, Martroyd. How are you, Squire? Excellent.
Martroyd.
Right, listen. We're almost that. Just about wraps it up, and I've not even started. We've not even started. Bloody hell. Right, listen. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to answer any of the questions for last week's waffle, because this is a live one. What I tend to find is when I do a live waffle, people don't ask any questions because they're obviously in the people that are going to post questions are already watching it. So the questions, I've got a couple there for last week, which I'm going to carry on over to next week. So I've just got a couple of wee things. You were talking on about it earlier on. I've got quite a sizable collection of hardware, as you can probably see. Very lucky having all that, and I love having it. If I'm being honest, I don't really play it. I don't use a lot of it. I do use my C64, Amiga at a push. Everything else, I've got things that I've probably not switched on for a long time. I've got. We're talking about the Pandora, the little handheld thing, which I've got. I've not got anything that's worth like thousands, anything like that. But I've got a couple of Vectrexes, or two Vectri, I should say. They go for kind of daft money. And I don't know why I'm talking about the money side of it, but at what point do you think? I mean, you've got quite a sizable hardware collection. You've got a lot of comics. You've got models. You've got Blu-ray discs. You've got laser discs. You've got a lot of a lot of shite. You know what I mean? At what point do you think you will say, right, you know what, I'm going to sell it? Or are you going to pass away and leave it for somebody else to clear up? Or have you got any thoughts? At what point do you think you should think about downsizing? Evening, Brian. How are you, mate?
I think, for me personally, at the moment, the more that I move into the situation where I move forward and my family are now starting to get to an age where they're not going to be around a lot anymore, I've had to seriously think about that more now in the last 3 or 4 years than ever before. Before, it was like I wasn't thinking along those lines at all. I think it was the shock of my father dying that made me start thinking about my own morality and the people that are around me, and how much do people know about me. And suddenly, what something was not even thought about as I've even got a collection, especially when it comes to electronic stuff, which pretty much is out of date as soon as you buy it. Anybody will tell you now, if you go in and buy a Curry's TV, it's a model that is now out of date, because the one they're working on is the one that's most up to date. And you'll never see that, because as soon as it's out of date. That's it's just the way of electronics. So I've started to think about that a lot more now, and I've started to think about what is nostalgia and what is worth something, what's going to need repair and what's not going to be easy to repair. And I've tended to find that the electronic side of things is the hardest thing for me to stay in control of, because when it comes to a statue, I know exactly where I stand with it, right? They make a mold, they make so many of them, you get a certificate of authenticity. And when those molds have all sold out and all 1,500 are sold, there are no more of them.
Hmm.
So they either go up in value or they go down in value based on the popularity of something. When a comic goes out, there's no reprint of it. There is a reprint of it if it sells in the first couple of weeks, because what they do is they go back to the printers and they do what they call a second printing, third printing, fourth printing, and the number of printing runs goes down in numbers, and so the fourth printing turns out to be more expensive than the original comic that came out that week, even though it's sold out, right? So all of those things have got strict guidelines, but how have you got a strict guideline to a game? You haven't really, because you can copy it, you can duplicate it, you can do whatever you want, so something that's non-digital is easy to work out on what you want to leave behind for your kids, because it might be worth something, compared to something that you've got a nostalgic for but is worth absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
yeah, I have had to now seriously start thinking about space, what I want to leave behind, what I'm having fun with now, and what's not fun anymore.
I mean, I know, and I hope I'm sure you'll not mind me mentioning this. You've kind of touched on in your blog about your sort of your circumstances with your regards your mum and your house and
Yeah,
your close family, and you would have to kind of get a bit of collateral to kind of help you out. Would you never, would you never think to yourself? And I know I've suggested that to you in the past on the phone. Would you never think to yourself, right? Because yeah, again, you've mentioned that you've got quite a lot of things that are worth quite a bit of money. If somebody came to you and says, right, listen, I'm going to take all these models, I'm going to take all that there, I'll give you £40,000. Would you shake their hand, or would you say, no, 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 no? I mean, I can imagine how you'd be, whilst you'd be sad to lose things, it must be quite liberating to think that you've turned your life around because of, it would be like
oh yeah,
you'd be winning, getting a clear out, and you'd be winning because you suddenly your life would be a wee bit easier. I'm not saying that
yeah,
you've got £40,000 worth of stuff. That's just a figure I've plucked out there. But I know
yeah,
for me personally, I love having all this stuff, but sometimes it's like I would like to move house in the next couple of years, and the thought of, I mean, I've not got that much stuff in here, but the thought of having to kind of package all this stuff up, like, bloody hell. Whereas sometimes I'd like to just come in here and just have my TV, my Amiga, my Commodore 64, and my Vectrex and my PC, and I can just play everything else on the PC.
yeah,
I think I will get to that stage, but I'm not at that stage yet. But I don't want. I want to. I want. I don't want to. My daughter's getting left the house, so
yeah,
she's not getting it. Well, not to say she's not going to get anything else, but I would rather use what I've got in here and get rid of it and use the money for something nice for myself. But
yeah.
so what do you think drives the what do you think determines when somebody's going to say, right, fuck it, you know what? Because you do hear of some people. I think Jamie mentioned it earlier on. In fact, the best example I can think of was one of the dudes that used to go to the computer club. He doesn't go anymore for reasons I'm about to tell you. He had um, two bedrooms, probably not dissimilar to this size, and it was just, I mean, I showed you these cabinets, literally from ground to ceiling, shelf, 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 shelf. It was like a library in these two bedrooms, like, shelves all the way around, and it was just games. Phew, systems, you name it. He had everything. And I remember going to his house. He decided one day. I mean, he used to come to the computer club. We would be taking along a bloody Spectrum or a Commodore 64 or something, and he would turn up with the what was the Commodore, the one with the wee kind of built-in screen.
Oh, an SX64.
Yeah, he used to
Mm.
turn up with that, and then he would turn up with a bloody what's the FM Towns Marty or something it's
Yeah,
called. He'd come out with all these really, and I'm like, fucking hell, where'd you get that about? And I ended up, and then one day he just decided everything's getting sold. I
yeah,
think the only thing that he kept was his Auric. He kept his Auric, and I
Right.
think everything else went. Everything else went. I bought. I mean, what did I buy off him? Christ, I don't know. I bought shitloads. I bought
But
a
did he
3DO
just before did he explain why he kept the Auric? Was there a reason?
because that was his original computer.
Right. So there's a nostalgic thing to that,
Yeah, yeah, and that
right?
was it. So I ended up. I know Tony Walker, who's in the stream. Tony knows who I'm talking about. A guy called Bill, and yeah, he just decided I want rid of everything, and it was like bloody wasps round the jarry jam. We were oh god, and he said, "Oh, can I have that?" And I ended up buying. What did I buy? I ended up buying not Magnavox. What do you call them? Video packs.
Video pack, right?
I've got
Yeah.
two of the buggers. I've got one up in the loft, and I've got one next door, which my mate Andy very, very, what do you call it, kindly modded it, or he put the RF, not RF, what do you call it? Composite.
Yeah.
He's fitted the composite to that. He's fitted the composite to my Commodore TV games.
Yeah.
Not TV game, TV games. That's what it's called in the box, TV games. So there will be a video coming out shortly with that. Probably Neil's going to come up one night and we're going to play that. We're also going to have, he also modded my Binatone TV game.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to see that in all its resplendent glory. But where was I going with this? So anyway, I ended up buying a lot of stuff off Bill, and he just got rid of everything. Got rid of
Yeah.
everything, and that was like he was. The thing is, I remember going to his house and thinking, "Fucking hell, oh bloody hell, look at that price! I've not seen one of them for years." And I came away thinking, I'm glad I don't have that much stuff because, and he admitted that he just became he was utterly obsessed with collecting games and games, and he couldn't possibly play them because he just had
Yeah.
too much. But
Yeah.
yeah, you do hear some people saying, like, you know what, fuck it, I've had my fun, I'm selling up, and I'm going to do something else.
Yeah.
I don't see me ever coming to that stage because I don't think I'll ever get bored of coming on to YouTube and just talking shit on a Friday.
Now, the thing that comes to mind with that scenario, because I think it's probably the perfect scenario for me to sort of like describe, is that if that was to have happened to me, three things would have come into my head later on. About a year later, after that event had happened, three things would be going into my head. And one of them would be, am I keeping this now because it was owned by my mate and he might want to have it back? And I'm keeping it because I've got a nostalgia to the product because I used to have it myself, right? So there's that. The next one is it, am I keeping it because there's nostalgia for me when it's not even my original version that I had because I sold mine on years ago,
Mm,
right? And the last one is it worth it or is it just clutter? Right? And all of those things, when you put it in your head, don't come into effect when you're talking about a comic or a book or a statue, because those have already got a monetary value and they're already perfectly documented as having a value, where electronics don't. I don't think electronics really have much of a value, not written down like a device that's only, I mean, how many, take it like this, I'm sitting in front of a monitor and I have no idea whether they made 6 million of these monitors or whether they made 250 of them, right? All I know is what it cost me, how long I've had it, how long I've been sitting in front of it for, and whether I've got a nostalgia for it because it's been my go-to monitor for the last 5 years or whatever. And that's the cloudiness that comes into you because you look at it every day. You see what I mean? So that's where I've got my problem with electronics. I don't think I have a I have the biggest problem in regards to what I get rid of when it comes to electronics than I do any other product that I've got. And that's why I've written out a will, and I've got certain stuff like comics and statues all written in my will on who gets what. And I wouldn't care if they kept one and sold the others. As long as they've got something that says I'm keeping that because that reminds me of my uncle, then I'm happy. Because the rest of it, if they've got no interest in it, they've got some money. I got my enjoyment out of it because I bought it, built the damn thing, looked at it. You know what I mean? And I could have. talking in the future here, I could have died very comfortably. I have no idea. I know
Mm.
in 20 years' time, I've got to come up with a sizable chunk of money to live in this same house. But then again, who's to say in 20 years' time I don't do that? So, this is where it comes into the, do you sell it now or do you not sell it now?
Mm.
So,
I think
you know,
for me, I think you have to look at it from a couple of angles. One, do you still get any enjoyment out of it? If that's yes, then don't sell it.
yeah,
Secondly, if you really need are you going to get anything really? Are you going to get a lot of money for it, and could you put it to good, better use? If the answer's no, then don't sell it. If it's yes, then sell it. I mean, I remember taking along. I know it's a kind of not an ideal sort of comparison. A guy I used to work with, he says, "Oh, I know you're into the video games, mate." He says, "My son's got a PlayStation 2. He's interested. If you want, he wants to know, are you interested in buying it?" And I went, "Well, no, not really." "Oh, he's got about 150 games for this." He's, "Oh, let me see what the games are." And he brought us. Nah, I said, "Nah, listen, I'm all right." And I said, "Why don't you tell him to take it to Game or Game Station as it was called?" And I said, "You can trade it in." And he went, "Oh," and then he came back. He says, "I spoke to him. He said if you were willing to take it in, you can split the money." Oh,
yeah.
right, well, I said, "Right, fair enough." I said, "Aye, okay, that's fine." So I took it was about 170 games to Game Station. Have a guess how much they offered us. And I'm not. This is without a word of lie. But there's about 170 games. How much do you think he offered us?
I don't know. I wouldn't have a clue because I'm thinking it was a pittance.
It was, I
But
think, £7.50
yeah, like a
for
pittance,
170 games. I'm like,
Yeah, I know.
and he was scanning it through, and that's 1 pence. Oh, that's fucking 5 pence. 100. And I says, "I forget it," and I took it back, and I says, "Listen, mate," I says, I told him, and he went, "What?" He goes, "That fucking cost me fucking. We bought him that for
Yeah,
his
yeah,
Christmas 10 years ago. That was 45 quid." I said, "I know, but nobody wants them. Nobody
yeah.
wants FIFA
That's right.
2002."
They're looking at the
So
sale
yeah,
and demand, aren't they? And and they're,
I
they're a
think
business all right.
I think if you watch my back catalogue, I've probably told that story before, and I think the number of games increases each time I tell it. But it was over 100 games. I know that for a fact. I'm maybe exaggerating slightly, but it was certainly over 100 games, and it was either £6.50 or £7.50, and I'm like, they weren't even giving you like 10 pence a game.
Well, I'm actually going to ask you a question, right? Because while you've been talking about this, I'm not going to mention the YouTube channel or anything, but it actually fits in with the collection question that you're talking about. Now, there's a well-known YouTube channel, and there's this guy, and he commented and said, "I'm not interested in being a collector to get everything in regards to what came out on this machine. I'm only interested in buying back what I used to have." And
Hmm.
I went, "Okay." He set the parameters.
Hmm.
But then I thought to myself, because the thing that happens is that in my brain is I'll put that question to myself, right? When I sold my Commodore 64, I had a shitload of games. I have no idea what every title was, and I have no idea whether the cover of it was the bigger version of it or whether it was the budget one, right? How is this guy going to know he's got to the end of his collection of what he's got to buy back unless he's got a receipt or he's got a picture of every cover that he actually had? Because his parameters are only what I bought back in the day. Now,
I,
you have
eh,
also said yourself, I'm only really buying back certain stuff that I remember that I had. But I don't think you've ever set the parameters. I'm going to look for every title that I ever had. And I would say,
no.
how the hell do you do that? Because I sold thousands of, I must have sold hundred. I must have sold at least 600 Commodore 64 games, of which 300 or 400 of those were actually originals, right?
Mm.
I can tell you that legitimately it was 6 years and I bought 3 or 4 games every week. And if you did the maths, you'll work out that you had hundreds, right? It may be a small percentage of everything that came out on the Commodore 64, but it was a bloody big lot to me. And some of it was budget and some of it was stuff. And I bought it on the day it came out and all of that sort of stuff. But I cannot remember every title. I would probably look at it and go, did I buy that game? Did I buy Sheep in Space? Yeah, I actually did. Yeah, I remember I bought Sheep in Space. But then somebody else will bring up something like, did you buy Chiller? I have no idea. That could have been a copy, like saying. And you only recognize it by the cover and you go, yeah, but the cover's is a well-known cover and everybody knows what it looks like. My brain is probably telling me I bought that when actually I only had a copy of it. So how's this guy going to know he's got every single
Aye.
one of his
Well,
collection?
in his defence, I mean, I was mentioning to you the other day there. I've just kind of started on no, what the hell's it called? They Did What? And it's where I take a year. No, I'm talking bollocks. Fucking, I've got more
That's
on it.
unusual. Go on.
That's yeah. That was the year that was, and I take a year, and then I look at what were the sort of the top selling singles, and what was the top selling films, or the biggest films in that at the time. And then I just, what I do is I go into my game base, and I filter it on year, and I just go down, and if I've never heard a game, I don't pick it. If I know the game, I'll add it. I'll add it to my list. So I'm currently working on Commodore 64 1984,
Yeah.
and there is a shitload of games that came out in 1984. I think you mentioned that was the sort of year that the C64 really started to kind of
Yeah, it bloomed.
grow, started to grow. But I could, yeah, I mean, I can go through a list and go, no. Oh, Barry McGuigan's boxing. No, no, oh, drop zone. No. Oh, impossible mission. Oh, and I can pick games that I know, and I think I would be able to, if I picked, say, 120 games from 1984, I think I could probably tell you, I bought that one, copied that one, bought that one, copy, bought, copy, bought. I think I probably could.
Yeah.
But to try and, if I was to sit down and you said, right, you tell me every single game you bought in the Commodore 64, it would run to hundreds.
Yeah.
But I got rid of all my Commodore 64 games, all my Spectrum games, all my cassette. Well, I'm not talking about the originals, because they went in like 1986. But when I started kind of recouping, buying C64s and buying games, there were when I moved in here, I thought, fucking hell. I mean, this games room. I remember the day I moved in. Me and it was three mates helped me move, and I says, right, lads, just put all these tubs up here and game boxes and that. And my mate came in and went, what the fuck? What's all that shit that you've got in that room? What you got this cardboard box for? It was a Atari Lynx box. And I went, oh,
Yeah.
you need to keep that. What a fucking lot of garbage you've got here, you know. And
Yeah.
my entire floor was just stuff. And I went, oh, bloody hell, I need to get rid of stuff. So I ended up selling. I mean, I was selling like 20 Commodore 64 games for a fiver. I mean, it doesn't matter, somebody's getting the use of them. But I got rid of them all, and then I can't remember when it was. I think when the whole China miner thing kicked off, and if Mister Cat's
Don't
in
don't
the
swear at
stream,
me. Don't swear at me. I'm not
he
having
can
any of
fuck off
this.
if he comes in. But yeah, I got China mine. I started playing that, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be interesting to try and collect all the Interceptor games? So then I
Yeah.
thought, I'm going to buy back the games that I remember, like well, I don't want to give any spoilers, because in fact I meant to say, I have now not recorded. I've now photographed. I've taken 12 photographs um, of me holding up an original
Ah.
game, and that's going to be the main Meister calendar. Now, before people start going, fucking hell, who does he think he is? What a prick, fucking bringing out his own calendar. Ooh. It was, people asked, it's a bit of a laugh. What I'm going to do is, I was asking in Discord about, is there a way of like selling stuff like that? And then Ava said, and I think it was Colin Jones said, is it Redbubble? But you can have baseball caps and I thought, I'm not going down that road. They're expensive. So what I'm going to do is, as a bit of fun, bit of laugh, I'm going to get the main Meister complete bollocks calendar
Yeah.
2023. I'm going to get it made up. Um, I'll ask people who wants one, and then I'll then play. Say I get 10 people wanting a calendar. Um,
Yeah.
I'll then place an
I
order
think
and say,
I think it will sell well. I mean, you got to. I mean,
it's you know what? It's a bit of fun. It's fucking nothing more than a bit of fun, and that's it. I would maybe do.
you could. I mean, straight away you could put me down for two. You know, because one my mum would like because apparently you're her toy boy, and the other, and I want the other one because I need a new dartboard.
Well,
So you know, so basically you've got two sales.
well,
Haven't you?
can you not let your mum enjoy me for the month, and then when she moves to June, you can pick me up, save yourself a bit of cash.
No, I would just like to do. I mean, I'm quite willing to buy two copies. You know, I mean, I'm not that.
But no, you know, in
I
all
might put one in a
seriousness,
time
what
capsule.
what I'm going to do is I say that I'll ask you, like, who wants a fucking main meister calendar, and then I'll place the order, and it'll be right. Oh, it's going to cost 120 quid divided by 10. It's obviously they're going to get sent to me, and then I'll add on an extra couple of quid for postage. So it'll people will be buying them. You know, I'm not interested in making any money. I'm not interested in fucking charging more for charity. People, if somebody wants one for a laugh, they get it at cost price. Simple as
Yeah.
that. But yeah, so that was that were that. Um, right. Next question. I don't want to jack on too long, so I think we'll maybe try and draw it to a close at 9:30 because
Yeah, I'm
people
just
have
going
got
to turn
other.
my light on because it's getting very dark. You
Yeah,
carry on.
yeah, yeah. You do that. You do that. Fucking hell! I mean, he joins the channel. He's completely unprepared. What's he like? I don't know why I have him in the channel. Really don't. He absolutely fucking does my head in. But you know, you think he would have fucking put the light on before he came. He knew he was doing the video. Is that the light on, mate?
Yeah, it's all right. I said the same thing
That's
when you buggered off.
that's the light
You
on.
want to
Good.
hear what I said about the back
Good.
of your chair? You'll have to look back.
Hang on, you've dropped something, mate. There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. Thanks.
Right.
Cheers for that.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll try and yeah, I'll maybe somebody says I'll maybe do mugs. I think you can. Is it Vista Print or something? You can do mugs and calendar, something like that. Yeah, and then again, that was my main meister. That was actually somebody that used to watch my channel. I don't know who it was. He actually sent me that. Oh, that's brilliant. That's Marlon.
I swear, there's a picture of you in your intro that's inside your Audi car, and I remember you telling me you used to have an Audi. And
Yeah, yeah.
every time I look at it, and it's behind the steering wheel, I go, "That's my car." I swear that's my car.
Is that the Friday Waffle intro? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's got the back
Uh,
of the, and I recognise the weave on the back of the, and I'm going, "That's an Audi." You know, it just amuses me every time I see it. That was all.
yeah, right. Will the retro gaming bubble ever burst, or will it continue, or do you think? I'm sorry, I'm talking about the interest in video games. I mean, right
Yeah.
now it's massive. It really is. Do you think in 20 years' time people are still going to be talking about the Spectrum, or do you think as people like? Do you think like the early adopters like ourselves and probably most of the old fogies that are watching this, as we kick the bucket and people like Ava, etc., who has no nostalgia. She doesn't know what a Commodore 64 is. Well, she
Yeah.
might do because her dad's got one. But do you think that in 20 years' time, people will still be playing these systems, still be talking about it, still be making YouTube videos, or do you think in 30 years' time, people will be going, yeah, this is the original PlayStation 5 that belonged to my dad, and
Yeah.
but then because it's digital, you're not really going to have that. So,
Yeah.
firstly, at what point do you think that people are going to stop talking about the Commodore
Well, that's what
64 and the Spectrum?
this is what I've been trying to portray. The core part of anything to do with this is nostalgia. As long as there's nostalgia, there's somebody around that's going to go, I want to know more about it than what's written in a book, and I want the physical thing. And there are others that just want to read about it, you know, like history, like reading up about Queen Elizabeth I. Do you see what I mean? Now, it does it in generations as far as I'm concerned, because I've now got no interest whatsoever at my age remembering things about Pong. I know about it. I was there. I played it. I was enthralled about it. But I also remember, unless there was somebody with me, it was the biggest load of shit going. Right? Otherwise I was right. And if somebody was to offer me a Pong machine, like a Binatone, now I'd go, no, it's too far back. It's too simplified. I really don't, even though it was probably the hottest thing to me, and I was talking about it for 2 years, I've got less thoughts about it. And then when you get to something like the Commodore 64, where I had it for 6 years, I want to talk about it to death.
Mm.
And I think that if you therefore think about this from Ava's point of view, she'll probably want to think about, again, the earliest game that she probably ever played on might have been a handheld. And at some point she's going to turn around and go, nah, not interested in the handheld thing anymore. I remember it. I remember the simplicity of it. I remember also that it weren't like that. But you want to start talking about the Xbox 360 when I was playing it with my dad, that's probably my cutoff point where I'm always, forever, until I die, want to talk about that all the way up.
Mm.
Do you see what I mean?
Just
It's
you're
it's where
you're
you were introduced and where you've got the most nostalgic point, I think.
Yeah, just this is a story that I read somewhere, and I thought it was a really really nice. It was actually a post that somebody had put. It wasn't on it wasn't on one of my videos, but somebody had actually. And again, apologies about repeating myself, but I think it's a nice story. This guy had said that him and his dad used to play. I don't know what it was, Gran Turismo or something. One of these racing games, and they used to just do the ghost thing, and it would save the fastest lap, whatever it was. And he said they used to play it all the time. And then he said that his dad, I think he passed away with cancer or something. And he said he dug his Xbox 360 out the cupboard, he plugged it back in, loaded up the game, and there it was. There's his fastest lap dad. And he says he used to race against his dad, but he didn't want to ever beat his dad because it was his like the ghost
Yeah.
image of his dad, and he said he felt that his dad was still there. He was playing it, he was still getting challenged with
Yeah.
his dad, even though his
They did
dad had
that in
told him.
Mario, didn't they? Where you have a ghost car, it's got
Aye,
your fastest time and you're racing against yourself. So that's a lovely thing, isn't it? I mean, I'm pretty
yeah,
sure there
that's
are a lot of people out there that have had a loved one die and they've still got their voice on an answering machine, an old analog answering machine. They won't get rid of it because they can hear the voice again. And
yeah.
it's like, wow.
My dad was the same. When my mum passed away in 1998. Um, I don't know what happened, but somehow I think, in fact, my dad was always my mum. My dad always was desperate to get like a sign from my mum, because he knew that
Yeah.
when he kicked the bucket, he was going to be together again. And he always, I always remember him telling me that I think my sister had phoned him or something, and he'd come home and he'd press the play button on the answer machine, and then I think he'd forgotten to, for whatever reason, it kept playing it. And then the next minute, my mum's voice, you could hear my mum talking upstairs, and it was her answer machine. And I think
Yeah.
he said to me that he's just like, oh, I just wish I could hear your voice again. And then suddenly, oh, that's a sign, I mean, it's probably a lot of bollocks, but as far as my dad was concerned, this was my mum.
Well, yeah.
Excuse me, hang on, just blank that out. That's Lee trying to get me. Um,
Well, the reason I mentioned that is we've got pictures of my dad all around my house, and we didn't have things like film cameras and video cameras and all of that sort of stuff. So we got lots of stills and stuff. But as I keep going on, I can hear my dad's voice in my head.
mm,
But the one thing that I did that doesn't happen every day now because he's gone is that I hear his voice now. Do you see what I mean? And so every time I see a picture of my dad, I can sort of like remember how he sounded, but it's going to diminish. And when I get to my own,
yeah,
when I'm at 80, nobody's going to know anyway about my dad, because everybody around him would have been dead as well. And the only one
yeah.
who's going to remember what he sounded like is me.
And
So
yeah, and I was talking to, I think I was talking to Lee about this. I was saying, see, if I said to you right now, picture your dad, instantly you'll see your dad, poof, he'll flash up, but he only flashes up for a second.
yeah,
And then you've got to consciously think about him again, and he'll flash up. It's just like you get a wee snapshot, boom, and it's the same with like the voice. I can't really remember my mum's voice anymore, but I'm really lucky that my dad was a bit like you. He was an early adopter of stuff. My dad was the first. My dad was in his bloody 70s. He was the first person to get broadband that I knew. He
Yeah.
had like it was like it was an elephantine. Was it what was it 25 megasecond or something? It was the old Blue Yonder,
Mm.
and but he had like the camera where you took slides, and well, it wasn't the camera that took slides. You converted it into slides, but what was I talking about? He took. I've got loads of pictures of when I was a kid. Lee, on the other hand, my girlfriend, she's got about two pictures. I think she's got two photographs of mum and dad. That
Yeah.
is it, and it's
See,
sad. And
there's a
it's
little joke, you see, because I was doing one of my blogs and my mum came in, right? And you know what it's like when I can see my door at behind and I'm going, you're like this, right? Right. And it's only because it's a react because I said, do not come into my room for the next hour because I'm doing my blog. If you want to go to the toilet, go upstairs. You know, I'm doing all this with my mum, right? And everybody commented and said, we think your mum should be in it every week.
I think she
Right.
should.
Right. And I joked to my mum and I said, Mum, if I wrote down on a piece of paper something for you to say, do you think you can come into my room? Because I want you to do an introduction. Right. You're going to be in the front of my introduction every week. Right. So I sat her in front of the camera and I said, there you are, Mum, on that bit of paper. You got to see this. So she sat there and said, have I got to talk to this? I went, yeah, yeah, yeah. She goes, and I've got to look down at this and read, yes, Mum, you got to do that. Right. And she looked up and she said, hello, world, and welcome to my son's blog. Like this. And I was behind her. I went, no, bugger off. Ain't going to work like this. And I saved it and I thought, I'm going to have that as a blooper or I'm actually going to have that as an introduction
You need.
every month that's got, welcome to the Cowboys blog from my mum who's 80 years old. He doesn't know what the hell she was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Mrs. D needs her own little mini section. We need to have like the word of wisdom from Mrs. D, where she just comes out with something that we need to do.
What was
'Cause
really funny was I was
she knows
just to the
best.
side of her, and at the end of it, because I haven't pressed stop because I can't do it because she's sitting here where I'm actually sitting now. You could actually see me go, nah, it didn't work, bugger off. And she was, and she went, all right. She gets out the chair and walks off. I thought that was quite amusing. That was.
Don't get her to do her own channel, mate. She'll end up with fucking more subscribers than you.
But
She's got her own
all
following.
I was thinking of is my blog now. If it's ever given to my nephew and niece and all of that sort of stuff, they have now got my voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To go with the picture. You know, and if I did that with my mum, then of course, then I've got her as well because my mum never had. She had Polaroids. You know, the old Polaroid
Mm-hmm.
with the. That's all we had. We didn't have video cameras. We had a video recorder that recorded the TV, but again, that's not recording you. So what I'm trying to say is I've lost all those pictures and lost all that sound and all of that sort of stuff that my dad I had the chance to record of my dad never did. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lose that opportunity to record my mum at some point. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Ah, nice one.
that's why it's going to happen.
Yeah. I saw just Jamie saying there. He's comment. He says he's commenting too much. I'll bow out to give some breathing room. Absolutely not, Jamie. You keep the comments coming.
Yeah.
That's what makes it fun. Keep them coming, buddy. Listen, we're going to we've got about 10 minutes left.
Did
So
you
yeah,
want me to? Did you want me to bring my topic in then? That you told me that I ought to go away and think about, and I spent 2 hours doing it.
you can't. Is it? Can we talk about it in 10 minutes, or could we keep that one for next time?
We can keep it there. I'll tell you what it was, and we don't even have to discuss it. It's something that I was going to bring up in my blog, and I thought to myself, no, I'll bring it up in here. Now, very, very quickly, what happened this week, and it really annoyed me, right, was I was going through Steam and it came up with the you should consider these titles. I don't know if anybody's opened up their Steam, but they have this thing that comes up and it says this. Do you know what came up? It was Solo Flight from 1983, re-released for the PC, and they wanted me to pay £5.19 for it. right?
And is it got enhanced graphics in or
No,
what?
it's the exact release. All you're getting is the tape version of Solo Flight in an Atari emulator, right? £5.19 they wanted for it, and it came along with a load of other Sid Meier's titles like I don't know, Battle Europe or something. Very early stuff on the Atari and the Commodore 64.
So
Right?
was this Solo Flight for the Atari you're talking about?
Yep, the Atari 800. So the Commodore 64 version, in other words, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I looked a little bit deeper and I thought, so how much do they charge them for Sega Mega Drive stuff? And the Golden Axe is 79 pence, just so that you know, right? So you could buy Golden Axe. Then I thought, oh, I wonder if Monty Mole comes up then. So I put Monty Mole in, right? Monty Mole, the whole lot, each is £1.69 each. And it's the Spectrum version. Right? So Wanting Monty Mole is £1.69.
This is on
Monty on the
Steam.
Run on Steam. Monty on the Run is £1.69. Alvida's Aim Monty is £1.69. Bounder is £1.69. Jack the Nipper is £1.59.
So
Right?
how do you play them? How do you play them? I mean,
Well,
if you're not.
when you download it, it must download a front end emulator.
Ah,
Right?
right.
And this is the interesting one. I typed in Summer Games, and that is £1.89. And for £1.89, you get the Spectrum, the Amstrad, the Atari 2600, and the Sega Master System version.
Not the Commodore 64 one.
And all of these, no C64 versions. Every single one of
Oh,
these that I
that's there as
just
well.
talked about, right? And it made me think, and this is where I'm going to end the topic. I want people to think about, do you think there should be a statute of limitations where something becomes public domain and you can forget about copyright, license, and who owns it? Because 1983 Solo Flight, at the end of the day, I think that the guy, Sid Meier's made enough money out of all the other games that he's got that I should think he could relinquish that now and not ask £5.19 for it.
It's a, it's a. I'll
It
float
made
you
me
back.
angry. It made me angry anyway, and that was what I was going to bring up as a topic, and that's sort of where I end that really.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
I'm going to play devil's advocate. I mean, any nerd like the plethora, all 22 people plus you and I, we know about ROMs and all this kind of stuff, um, which is fine. Somebody somewhere probably must still own the rights to Solo Flight. I think it comes down to not how greedy. Well, yeah, how greedy you are. Thinking,
well,
well,
that's
I've
where
got
I
this.
looked, and it says original Gremlin graphics company Pixel Games, and I went, right. So Pixel Games have picked up the license. And this is where I was bringing it up and said, shouldn't there really, though, be now a point where we say the statute of limitations has now gone from this? It's now a 40-year-old game. When it gets to 50 years, it goes public domain.
Aye. Well,
Right?
when you
That's
think
all I'm saying.
when you think about it like that, but that's just somebody obviously trying to just fucking irk the last pennies out of it. I mean,
Yeah, that's what it is.
if I need to stop saying if Steam had these available 30 years ago, then I'd have probably went, fucking hell, Super Fight League for £1.69 and I can play it on my PC. I'd have bought it. But now I've got 28,000 games for the Commodore 64, so they've missed the boat. I don't really know who what market they're actually aiming at. It's probably the PC brigade that goes, Christ, I remember my granddad had a Commodore 64 and he used to play that game. But
the reason that it infuriated me is in the same week as I saw all of these games come up and I looked into it, Chris Abbott, who does C64 audio and he's done a lot of remixes of music and so forth, he's kindly turned round and gone to his very first album, which was Back in Time 1 and Back in Time 2 and Back in Time 3. And he said, do you know what? I sold these. They're years old. I brought them out in 1999, 2000. I'm now putting them as an archive in archive.org and giving them away free.
I've
made a point of saying anybody can have these now. And he made a point of it on Facebook by saying, does anybody mind if I do this? Because obviously people bought it from me in the past. They all turned around and said, no, 20 years ago, Jesus Christ, the amount of enjoyment I got listening to that.
that's nice.
As far as I'm concerned, great. And the first thing I did is because I know I've got the CDs of them, I actually went to archive.org and downloaded them and went, right, I've got a digital copy of it. But what I'm trying to say is he made his own mind up and said, 20 years old, that's
Mm-hmm.
my point where I say, right, this is
Yeah.
now public
It's the
domain.
same with Jeff Minter. He's all his
Yeah.
games are public domain now.
Yeah.
He's like, why are in? Christ Almighty! He even he even released a patch for Revenge of the Mutant Camels fairly recently.
But I didn't want to go over. That was going to be my
Yeah,
subject, and
yeah.
and thanks very much, Alan, for letting me
No, well,
continue with
listen.
it.
I just want to. We've got
People can have a discussion with that outside of this
just
now.
just to appease the OCD brigade. I've got 4.5 minutes. Just a very quick one. I've got down here. Do you think there are any original gaming ideas left? Because let's be honest, on modern consoles, it's first-person shooters. It's there's really no. Wait, what would you say was the last really original game? And I'm not talking about like indie games and that kind of stuff. But do you think is there something going to come along? We've tried to do the whole VR, and most people are like, nah, I don't really get VR. Our video
Yeah,
games now, have we reached the point where
yeah.
we've run out
But
of ideas?
the question is a derivative of the same question that people have asked in regards to cinema.
Mm.
Has the last original idea of a genre in film been done? And
I
I
mean, yeah,
have to turn around and say, yeah, because everything is a variation of something. Like this one's a rom-com, this one's an action thriller, this one's a horror, this one's a.
yeah. I
When it
mean,
comes to genres, I think we have come to the end. I think now it's all just variations, and there'll
very.
always be a new one just round the corner in regards to how you move the character around, or how we
See when
perceive it, or how we see it, and all of that sort
you
of thing.
think about it though, you take that, and that moves the character up, that moves them back, that moves them
Yeah,
left, that moves them right. The only and the difference is you push it up, and the background will move towards you to give you the impression of running. Back in 1983, if I can find my bloody joystick, you went like that, up, down, left, right.
yeah,
The control is exactly the same. Call of Duty has exactly the same controls as Robotron. Up, down, left, right, fire. It's just different window dressing. So yeah, there's very few games. 99% of games are just up, down, left, right, and fire. I mean, could you? I'll put you on the spot for the next 2.5 minutes. Can you come up with a fresh idea for a game? What game could somebody write that's never been written before? I mean, Nintendo tried to feature the the Wii motion and all that kind of stuff, and
yeah. Well, it wouldn't be an original idea because it would be just a rehash of a load of other ideas. But I thought about the fact that nobody has brought out The Prisoner as a game. You remember the old 1969 TV
yeah, I
series?
never really watched it, but I mean, I'm certainly aware of it. Yeah.
And when I was penciling it together and I looked, somebody did try to do it, but they distanced themselves because they couldn't afford the license. And when I was thinking about it, I was going, yeah, just think what other game that could be. You could be you're trapped on an island. You've got to tell everybody that you are number 2 so you can get off of the island. The whole idea is to get off of the island. There's a load of traps. You need to influence people to get yourself off the island. When you actually do get off the island and you're back into the real world, you're still a prisoner, and that's the end. That's what The Prisoner was all about, because you're a prisoner of conformity. That's the whole point of it. But just think of the mini games. You could have that big bubble that chases you down the beach. You could have a series of mini games. There's a platform bit in it. And I was just thinking,
Mm,
wow, I've just actually put the ideas of a game. But do you know what? Every single one of those would be a derivative of something else that's come out. And the only thing I
mm,
could probably do that's original would be, is there going to be inertia in this bit here or not? Like
mm.
Jeff Minter would always come up with a unique way of moving something, or there'd be gravity, or there's something different about it, and I might put one original thing in it.
Yeah, I suppose if you're to try and come up with a different, because ultimately every single game you're ever going to play is up, down, left, and right. It's, I
Yeah,
suppose you'd really need to think of like a different type of controller. Now we've all had there's been numerous god
Well,
awful
Nintendo tried, didn't they, with their glove?
power glove and
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like VR is obviously something, but then again, VR, you're kind of moving forward, just left up, left, right, up,
yeah, but
down.
aren't they? They are now
Yeah.
trying to put sensors on your feet and that sort of stuff, so that when you're walking, you can actually do this in but then nobody's got a bloody big mansion where they can walk around it without bumping into something. So
Yeah.
it is a hard one. But I do think there are original ideas out there. It's just that I think most of it is rehash, and it's just there's something unique that hasn't been done before, but it's still a rehash of something
Well,
else.
if EA or whatever or Bethesda want to give me a shout, I'm sure I'll come up with some wonderful ideas.
Yeah, and if
Anyway, that
anybody wants to buy the prisoner rights from me and want to have a little chat about it,
right,
Patrick
listen, mate.
McGowan.
So we don't upset the OCD brigade, we've got 29 seconds to keep it in 1 hour 30. So listen,
Yes.
I want to thank massive thanks to Dale. You're a good mate. It's always a joy to have you on. Thank you for joining me, Dale. And finally, guys, thank you very, very much for tuning in tonight. I will be back along on Sunday, usual time, 7:30, 7 o'clock to 9
Bloody
o'clock.
hell.
Have an utterly, utterly fantastic weekend. We've got 6 seconds. Say good night, Dale.
Good night, Dale.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Bye.